Right, let's hear from my panel. What do you think? Yeah, go on then, let's have a scrap. Mick, you want to fight first? Mick, you'll lose. Although you'll win if you sit on me. Right, Mick, so talk to me. What do you make of this then? Is it OK? I mean, I'm a woman, I call myself a woman. If somebody has gone through a biological change to make themselves a woman, I'd call them a trans woman, but I wouldn't say they're a woman biologically.
Well, I think with this argument, you've got to go back to where it started with Rosie Duffield. Now, there was a report, I think it was CNN, put out a report, and it mentioned individuals with cervix. Now, Piers Morgan said, what, do you mean women? And she liked that tweet. And because she liked that tweet, she was then accused of being transphobic as a result of that. Now, it was then pointed out to her that there is some transgender men, you know, women who transition into being men, do still have a cervix. So technically, she was factually incorrect in terms of that. That was where this has started from. It's now got to the point where there is an extreme trans lobby who are so violent in their views and angry with their views that she is now being threatened with death threats. And I think the argument, put the trans argument to one side for now. The argument at the moment is why can't an MP speak their mind, which is what we pay them to do, which is what we elect them to do, and have their free opinion on any matter that affects constituents and everyone around the country, and then fear that they can't actually go to a party conference and then talk about the issues of the day there. Now, that's where we are at the moment as a society. People can't have their opinions. So I think that's the major problem that we're looking at with Rosie Duffield, is how an MP, it's got to the point now, and the Speaker has said it as well, we can't have these threats against people simply for airing views which some people will think don't like.
And also, Mick, it's just a minority of people as well. It's a mob with pitchforks baying for blood. And I think that this tiny but vocal minority do a disservice to the larger community that is the trans community. And I think if you were to generally take a secret, because it would have to be secret, because people are just so scared witless of saying the wrong thing amongst their own community, for example, I think that it would come out favourably, the fact that it's OK to have an opinion like this. It's OK to sort of not feel comfortable if there's an individual, a male, who is undergoing, and you would hope that he's been sincere, because I could all of a sudden identify as a woman and I keep my genitals intact. Well, no, but I think... There's a sight for sore eyes. No, but I think the threshold should be maybe if there is a transition...
Now, going back to that, the point about female-safe spaces and female-only spaces. Now, I think the majority of people who do this, and again, it's only a small amount of people in the country. It's a huge debate, but it affects only a small amount of people, but it affects them hugely in the rest of their lives. Now, they won't go into that act mainly lightly. I think it's a huge decision for a lot of people. It's something that has been a problem for them all of their lives. They feel as though they're in the wrong body, and all the problems that go with that. Now, I can understand, as this society, because we are still a conservative, very conservative society, that the idea that a man who's transitioned into a woman and then going into women's toilets and things like that, I can see why we're still at that point where it is a huge debate, because there is this fear that certain people will take advantage of it.
I mean, look, for example...
but it's, as you said before, it's a very, very small minority.
But that's irrelevant, because it's a very, very small minority that will go through this whole gender reassignment in any case. But it's
a small minority of them.
Yes, but it doesn't then mean that that's OK. Because the bottom line is that if you are a man and you have not fully transitioned as a woman, then you are still biologically a man. Right. In which case, I don't want you in a female-only space. That's just quite simple in my eyes. Even you might be transitioning, but when you are a female, when you have changed your sex to a biological, not born biological, but obviously you've had gender reassignment and then you are a woman, then OK. But at the point whilst you're still male and you have all the male attributes in terms of the bone density, the strength, which obviously you will have even when you've transitioned, but you've gone through everything, then fine. But this is a female-only space.
Just to quote a bit of Latin, I think if you still have your tackle intacta, then you should maybe reconsider whether you go into a female-only space. I think the threshold is possibly a medical procedure, but then you have to feel desperately sympathetic to them up until that point, because they still identified as a female. And I wouldn't focus, in my view, too much on bone density or muscle capacity and strength, because we're talking about going into a toilet.
If it was in sports,
but we're talking about going to a toilet.
A female-only space. It might not be a toilet. It might be somewhere else, but female-only space.
Well, in this story, on this occasion, we're talking about a toilet at a Labour Party conference. I don't think the density of your bone has got anything.
Well, no, it does, because it's the strength.
But you're assuming that someone's going to assault you.
No, I'm not assuming that. I'm just saying that.
I don't.
No. There's no assumption anywhere at all. The point is that, in general, the reason why these spaces are female only is because there is that potential for any, that sort of thing, for somebody to take advantage of that. So, as a woman, for example, as a woman, we go out and you probably have your key ready just in case someone jumps you. You've got to work out where you're going, look through the alley. It's very. We as women are constantly thinking about security. We are constantly, and as a man, you probably don't see it the way we see it.
But at a Labour Party conference?
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that in a female-only space, if somebody has not transitioned fully and they are still male biologically, then I think it's fair enough. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No,
I can see the argument, and again, there is also the argument if it was a man and there was another sexuality that was stronger than a man that was doing the same, and then it was in men's toilets, and it would be, well, the law would be changed straight away for men. That would be the argument. But I just feel as though, again, it's difficult. There isn't an easy answer, and that's why people have this argument, because you end up with a group of people who feel as though they're out of the way of society, aren't they?
But Mick,
where can they go?
It's not an easy answer, because it's binary. It's one or the other. It's not nuanced. There's no middle ground. You've got people who've championed feminism all their life. Metaphorically, people want to burn them at the stake because it's so binary. It's either that or it's either that. So, and I don't know where the negotiation goes, because no one's going to give on either side.
I know where it goes. You just do what we do here at GBNews, and everyone can use the toilets. Well, stop. It's male, female, it doesn't matter. Everyone uses them, and that sort of sorts out that argument straight away. But if there are female-only spaces, and it is that, for example, if I was taking my child's going to the toilet, or she might go on her own, I would feel nervous if it was somewhere that men could also go in. So it's things like that. It's not. I'm not bothered whether somebody's transitioned or not in terms of what they do personally. That's not my point. My point is, in a female-only space, if somebody has not transitioned and they are not biologically female, they shouldn't be going in there. I think there should be either a neutral toilet for everyone, if it was that, or...
But is there also the argument that, obviously, there is a problem with certain men in society, and sexual violence against women and other forms of violence against women, but why are we putting it onto trans women?
That's interesting. Why are you worried?
Because what I'm saying is, it's a very small percentage of trans people that maybe some people are scared of doing this sort of thing. But those people would commit those crimes, because it would be a crime, if they were still men. I'm not saying that's an excuse.
But they wouldn't be in a female space.
No, but those sort of people would try and find their way into a female space anyway. This has given them a way into it. But
that's the point.
But that takes a lot of planning to commit. That's what I'm saying.
Listen,
it's a fear, women, and I understand it's a fear.
For women, as a woman, that we go into those spaces and we feel safe, and it's a private space for women. So if we now know that men can come in who are dressed as women, but they are still physically men, that is not a comfortable thing for me to have to think about every time I go into the toilet. Whether there is somebody bad or not in there is irrelevant. The point is, that is my sanctuary, my space that I'm going into, the space where I'm quite vulnerable. I don't want to feel that there's some man in there.
And if, for example, how would you feel if I walked in a summer frock, for example, into your safe space? You'd feel vulnerable, wouldn't you? In a nice summer frock.
What, you in a nice summer frock?
Well, yeah, because that is at the moment we're at that stage. I can say, okay, I'm a woman, and I can put on something rather dashing, and then I'll see you in the toilets.
Well, look, the other day we had Shay Roberts. He went through the transition. He was initially a woman. He is now a man, and we spoke about it at length as to what he thought about it as well. And it's interesting. He understood what I was saying, but again, you have to be very careful, because people who are trans are perfectly nice, normal people. It's not an insult to the people themselves, but it's just my personal feeling, which I feel I should be able to say without somebody wanting to sort of...
That's the beauty of this station. You can do that.
Thinking about those for someone who is a trans woman who feels they need to go back into, say, a men's toilet or something like that, they will feel... I imagine the vast majority will feel so intimidated going into that toilet with the way that some men would react to that as well. So, I think the vast majority of people in this situation clearly aren't intent on violence, clearly aren't intent, and they're in a very difficult position and trying to make the best of their lives, having made a huge decision.
And also, just finally, that their life is hard enough. They're at a Labour Party conference.
To be fair, it is pretty tough. Why would you go there? Yes, you should sort of back out of that straight away.